My name is Emily Rose. I am 37 years old, and I live in Dublin, Ireland. Before everything that happened, the accident, the death, and the unexplainable experience with Jesus, I was just an ordinary woman. I worked as a primary school teacher, teaching little children how to read and write, watching them discover the world with innocence and wonder. On the outside, my life looked fine. I had a stable job, a small apartment, and a loving family nearby. I had friends I would occasionally meet for coffee, and I went to church on Sundays, more out of tradition than true conviction. But on the inside, there was an emptiness I couldn't explain. I often found myself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, asking silent questions. God, are you really there? Do you truly care? Or are we just moving pieces in some endless game? I didn't voice these doubts to anyone, because people looked at me as someone who had it all together. But I didn't. Deep inside, my soul was restless. Even though I smiled at my students and played the role of the strong daughter and friend, I was tired. Tired of pretending, tired of searching, tired of not knowing if my faith was real or just a borrowed tradition from childhood. I didn't realize it then, but those questions, those silent cries of my heart, were the beginning of a journey I never expected. A journey that would take me through death itself, into the arms of Jesus, and back again with a message for the world. There were days when I felt like I was walking through life on autopilot. Wake up, go to work, teach, come home, prepare lessons, repeat. Outwardly, I had stability, but inwardly, I was crumbling. I would sit in church on Sunday mornings and look around at people lifting their hands in worship, tears streaming down their faces, and I would wonder, why don't I feel what they feel? Why does God seem so silent to me? It was as if my prayers bounced back from the ceiling. I asked for guidance, for peace, for some sign that he was near. But what I felt most of the time was emptiness. And in that emptiness, a quiet fear grew. What if God had abandoned me? Or worse, what if he never existed at all? I remember one evening, after a long day, I walked by the river near my apartment. The sunset was painting the sky with fire, and the water reflected it like glass. And I whispered, God, if you're real, please, please show me. I can't keep living like this. But there was no voice, no vision, just silence. And I carried that silence home with me, heavy in my chest, not knowing that soon, my cry would be answered in a way I could never have imagined. Now I want to ask you, dear listener, have you ever felt like God was silent in your life? Like you were praying but no one was listening? Write in the comments, yes, I've felt that silence, or share your personal experience. Your words might comfort someone else who feels the same way right now. It was an ordinary Friday afternoon. I remember it so vividly because it started out like any other day. My students had just finished a week of spelling tests, and they were laughing and running out of the classroom, eager for the weekend. I stayed behind for a few minutes, straightening papers and locking the cupboards. I had no idea those would be the last normal moments of my life. The rain had started when I left school. Dublin rain, soft and constant, falling in silver sheets across the streets. I got into my small car and turned on the wipers. I was tired, my mind drifting between lesson plans and the thought of what to cook for dinner. I wasn't paying attention the way I should have. I remember the sound first, the blaring horn, sharp and desperate, then the flash of headlights in my peripheral vision. Time seemed to slow down. My hands tightened on the wheel, but I couldn't stop what was coming. The impact was like being crushed under a mountain, metal against metal, glass shattering, my body thrown forward and then slammed back. There was a scream. I think it was mine, but then it was drowned by silence. And in that silence, I felt something I cannot fully explain. A strange detachment, as if the pain belonged to someone else. My vision blurred, the world faded, and I realized I was dying. My last earthly thought was not fear, but a strange awareness. This is it. This is the end. Einidshir, I want to ask you something. If you knew today was your last day on Earth, what would be the one thing you'd want to say to your loved ones? Share it in the comments. Your words might remind someone of what truly matters. I had always wondered what it would feel like to die. Would it be agony? Would there be darkness? Would there be nothing at all? The answer came to me in the most unexpected way. As the crash happened, pain tore through my body for just a brief instant, but then it dissolved. I expected more pain, more struggle, but instead there was a quiet release, as though someone had gently pulled me out of a heavy coat. Suddenly, the weight of my broken body was gone. I realized I was no longer in my body. I was above it. At first, I was confused. I could still hear the faint sound of rain tapping on the windshield, the hiss of steam from the crushed hood of my car, the frantic voices of strangers rushing toward the wreck. But I wasn't inside the chaos anymore. I looked down and saw myself, my hair matted with blood, my arms limp, my chest unmoving. It should have terrified me, but instead I felt an overwhelming peace. There was no panic, no fear, just the most profound calm I had ever known. I could see people gathering, a man on his phone shouting for an ambulance, a woman kneeling near the wreck, her hands trembling as she tried to touch my face. I wanted to tell them, "It's okay, don't be afraid, I'm not there anymore." But no sound came. My lips didn't move. I wasn't breathing. Then came a strange sensation, like my entire being was expanding. The world around me seemed brighter, sharper, yet less important, as if the veil of ordinary life had been lifted. Time no longer mattered. Seconds, minutes, they lost their meaning. I felt pulled upward, gently, as though invisible arms were carrying me away from the accident scene. Below me, the sirens began to wail, but they grew distant, muffled, like echoes fading into another dimension. And then, silence. A silence so pure, so vast, it wasn't empty. It was alive. In that silence, I realized something. Death was not an end. It was a doorway, and I had just stepped through it. My mind wasn't foggy. I wasn't unconscious. I was more awake than I had ever been. Every sense was heightened. Colors glowed. Sounds resonated with layers I had never heard before. And the peace. Oh, the peace was like a warm ocean wrapping around me. I thought to myself, so this is what it means to die. It's not frightening at all. It's freedom. But just as that thought settled, I began to sense something even greater approaching. A presence. A love so powerful it was almost overwhelming. It was as if the entire atmosphere was alive with anticipation, preparing me for the encounter of my life, the encounter with eternity. As I drifted further from the wreck, the silence around me seemed to pulse with life. It wasn't empty. It was full, vibrant, almost like music without sound. Then, in the distance, I noticed something. A light. At first, it was small, like the faint glow of a candle in the darkness. But as I moved toward it, or rather as it drew me toward itself, it grew brighter, warmer, more radiant than anything I had ever seen. Yet strangely, it didn't hurt my eyes. Instead, it filled me with the deepest sense of belonging. This light was not like the sun. The sun burns. This light healed. The sun casts shadows. This light erased them. The closer I came, the more I realized this light was alive. It wasn't just illumination. It was love. Pure, unconditional, endless love. And then, he appeared. From within the light, a figure stepped forward. I knew instantly who he was. Not because anyone told me, not because of his face, but because my soul recognized him the way a child recognizes its mother's voice. It was Jesus. His presence was overwhelming yet gentle, like an ocean wave that could knock me down, but instead chose to lift me higher. His eyes, oh, his eyes. They were fire and tenderness all at once, looking straight into the very core of me. In his gaze, I saw everything I had ever done, every thought, every failure, every tear. Nothing was hidden. And yet, instead of condemnation, I felt mercy. Instead of shame, I felt forgiveness. The closer I came to him, the more I wanted to fall at his feet. But I had no feet anymore, no body. Still, my very being bowed in his presence. He didn't speak with lips, yet his words filled me. They were like rivers flowing directly into my soul. My child, I have always been with you. Even in your silence, even in your doubt, I was there. You thought I had abandoned you, but I was closer than your breath. Tears, not of sorrow, but of release, flowed from the essence of who I was. I finally understood. All those nights of silence, all those unanswered prayers, they had not been ignored. They had been carried. He had been carrying me all along. Then his love enveloped me completely. It was like being submerged in an ocean of light. Every wound in my heart was healed in an instant. Every fear melted away. I wasn't just loved. I was known in the deepest, most intimate way, and still fully embraced. At that moment, I thought, I never want to leave this place. I never want to leave him. But I didn't know then that he had something to show me, a vision, a message, something that would shake me to the core and change the way I looked at life, death, and the future of this world. Matbokhan's your question for you, my friend. If you could ask Jesus one question right now, face to face, what would it be? Write your question in the comments. Let's see what's on your heart. You may discover that many others share the same longing. Jesus stood before me, his presence brighter than the sun, yet softer than dawn. His gaze held eternity, and when he spoke, his words thundered without sound, flowing directly into my being. "There is something you must see," he said, "for time is shorter than many believe, and my people are not ready." Suddenly, the light around us shifted. It was as though we had stepped into a vision, and I was no longer simply in his presence. I was being shown what was to come. Before my eyes, I saw the earth, familiar oceans, mountains, and cities stretched out beneath a fragile atmosphere. But then, like a shadow sweeping across a map, darkness began to spread. It wasn't the gentle darkness of night. It was thick, heavy, suffocating, like smoke swallowing the sky. I felt it, the fear, the despair. People running, screaming, trying to light candles, flashlights, anything. But nothing pierced the darkness. The air itself grew cold and heavy, as if creation was holding its breath. Jesus spoke again. "These are the 3 days of darkness. They have been spoken of, yet many mock and ignore. But I tell you the truth, it will come." And then he showed me 3 signs that would precede it. 1. The shaking of the earth. I saw earthquakes erupting in places that had never known them before. Skyscrapers crumbling, mountains splitting, and the ground opening like a wound. 2. The sky turning red. The heavens were painted with a crimson glow, like blood covering the clouds. It wasn't a sunset. It was terrifying, unnatural, a warning written across the firmament. 3. The silence before the storm. For a brief moment, the world became eerily quiet. No birds, no wind, no sound of life, just stillness. And then, the darkness fell. In that darkness, evil moved freely. Demonic shapes slithered through the streets, shadows whispering lies into terrified hearts. I saw people pounding on doors, begging to be let in, but the command was clear. No one was to open their doors. No one was to look outside. And amidst it all, Jesus said, "Tell them, during those days, only the light of faith will remain. Candles blessed in my name will shine, while all other lights will fail. Those who cling to me will be protected. Those who mock will be exposed." I trembled, not out of fear for myself. I was safe in his presence, but out of fear for those who were unprepared. I thought of my family, my friends, my students. Would they be ready? The vision faded, and I was once again standing before him. His face was solemn, but his eyes burned with love. "I do not show you this to terrify, but to awaken. My return is nearer than many expect, but it will not happen as they imagine. Tell them, watch, pray, prepare. The darkness will come, but it will pass. And after it, the light of my glory will shine brighter than ever before." I wept, because I knew the weight of this message. It was not a story, not a dream. It was a warning, and I knew my life would never be the same again. Shakur, now I want to ask you, dear friend, do you believe these 3 days of darkness could really happen? Or do you think the world is too blind to see the warnings? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters more than you think. After showing me the vision of the 3 days of darkness, I stood trembling in awe before Jesus. I thought the message was complete, but then his eyes pierced even deeper into me, and I knew there was more, something even greater, even harder to carry. He lifted his hand, and once again the vision shifted. I saw churches, thousands of them, cathedrals filled with gold and marble, tiny chapels hidden in villages, modern glass buildings with flashing lights and booming music. People filled the pews, raising their hands, singing, praying. But as I looked closer, I saw something missing. Jesus spoke. "Many think they are ready for my return, but their hearts are far from me." I saw pastors preaching about blessings, about success, about happiness, but avoiding words like repentance, holiness, sacrifice. I saw people carrying Bibles, but never opening them. I saw worship filled with noise, but empty of spirit. Then his voice thundered with both grief and authority. "They expect me to come as a gentle guest, to fit into their lives and bless their plans. But I am not returning as a guest. I am returning as a king." And then, in the vision, the skies split open. The earth shook, oceans roared, and the heavens blazed with fire. I saw him descending, not as the meek lamb, but as the Lion of Judah, robed in majesty, eyes like flames, and a sword of truth proceeding from his mouth. Multitudes fell to their knees, weeping, not out of joy, but out of terror, realizing they had not truly known him. And Jesus said, "Tell them, my return will not be what they imagine. It will not be hidden, quiet, or negotiable. Every eye will see, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. The time of choosing will be over. The time of judgment will begin." My heart shook with both fear and hope. Fear, because so many are asleep. Hope, because those who truly belong to him will be gathered, embraced, and carried into eternal light. I wanted to ask, "Lord, when will this happen? When will the darkness fall? When will you return?" But before I could even form the thought, he answered, "The day and hour the Father alone knows. But I tell you this, the signs are already here. Those with eyes to see and ears to hear will know. Those who mock will be caught unprepared. My child, you must warn them. You must tell them." I wept again, because I realized how unworthy I was to carry such a message. I was just a teacher, just a woman with doubts, just a soul who had begged God to show himself. And yet, here I was, entrusted with a truth that could shake nations. Now I turn to you who are listening. Do you believe most people today are truly ready for the return of Jesus? Or are we living distracted, unprepared lives? Write in the comments, ready or not ready, and share why. Your answer could open someone's eyes. When the visions ended, I remained in the presence of Jesus. I wanted nothing more than to stay there forever, surrounded by his love, free from pain, doubt, and the weight of this broken world. I whispered from the depths of my being, "Please, Lord, don't send me back. Let me remain here with you." His eyes, burning with love, met mine, and he answered with gentleness, but also with firmness. "Emily, my beloved child, your time is not yet finished. There is still a mission for you on earth. You must return." The words pierced me. Return? Back to that broken body, that shattered world, that silence I had once hated. Every part of me longed to resist. But then he stretched out his hand, and in it, I saw faces. So many faces. Some I recognized. My family, my friends, even some of my students. Others were strangers. But he showed me that each life mattered to him. Each soul weighed in eternity. There are people who will hear me only through your testimony. Your words will awaken hearts that are sleeping. Your story will prepare souls for what is to come. You must not keep silent. I began to cry because I felt so small, so unworthy. "Lord, I am not strong enough. Who will even believe me?" And he replied, "Do not fear rejection. Do not fear their laughter. The message is not yours. It is mine. And I will give you the strength to carry it." At that moment, his presence surrounded me even more strongly, as if he was clothing me with courage. I realized the mission wasn't about me at all. It was about him. It was about warning, preparing, and awakening souls before it was too late. Still, I hesitated. The thought of leaving his presence was unbearable. He must have seen it in me, because he spoke again. "Emily, remember this. I am with you always, even when you cannot feel me, even when the silence returns. I am there. This is your purpose, to tell them what you have seen, what you have heard, and what is coming. Go, and do not be afraid." His words sank into me like fire, and I knew there was no choice. Love compelled me to return. His love for those faces, those lives, those souls. And then, with one last look into his eyes, the light around me began to fade. The peace, the music, the warmth, it all slipped away, and I felt myself being pulled back into the cold, broken shell of my body. Arstak Hydram, now let me ask you, if Jesus gave you a mission today, even if it cost you comfort, even if people doubted you, would you accept it? Write, "Yes, I would," or "I don't know" in the comments, and explain why. Your words may encourage someone else who feels called but afraid. The moment I opened my eyes, I wished I hadn't. Pain exploded through every nerve in my body. My chest ached with each shallow breath. My ribs felt like they were caving in, and my head pounded with the weight of what I had just seen and what I had lost. The light was gone. The peace was gone. I was back in a world of machines beeping, voices shouting, and cold air filling my lungs. I was in a hospital bed, tubes running into my arms, doctors leaning over me with masks and gloves. They looked at me with surprise and relief, whispering, "She's back. She's alive." But I didn't feel alive. I felt torn. Part of me was still in that place of eternal light, aching to return. And yet here I was, dragged back into brokenness, carrying a burden that no one around me could see. The first days were the hardest. My family rejoiced that I had survived the accident. But how could I explain to them what really happened? How could I put into human words the sight of Jesus, the vision of the darkness, the message of his return? Every time I tried, people gave me strange looks. Some smiled politely, as if I had simply dreamed. Others warned me not to talk too much, fearing people would call me crazy. The loneliness cut deep. To have seen eternity, to have touched the truth, and then to walk among people who lived as if nothing was urgent. It was like carrying a secret that burned inside me, yet no one wanted to hear. I would sit awake at night, staring out the hospital window at the city lights and whisper, "Lord, why me? Why give me this message if no one will believe?" And always, the memory of his voice would return. "Do not fear rejection. The message is not yours. It is mine." Still, the burden was heavy. Imagine carrying the knowledge of a coming storm while everyone else is laughing at the sunshine. That is what it felt like. My heart longed for people to wake up, to prepare, to understand. The pain of my body slowly healed, but the pain of carrying this truth never left. I had been given a mission, and missions are never easy. They demand sacrifice. They demand courage. And sometimes they demand walking alone. Now I ask you, have you ever carried a truth or conviction that others didn't believe? How did it make you feel? Share your story in the comments. Your testimony might give courage to someone else who feels isolated in their faith. As the days turned into weeks after my accident, one truth became louder than all my doubts. I was not spared just to live quietly. I was spared to speak. The vision of the 3 days of darkness still burns inside me. The memory of Jesus' eyes, his words, his love, they never leave me. And neither does the weight of his warning. Time is shorter than many believe. I don't share this to frighten you. I share it because love warns. A parent warns their child not to touch fire. A doctor warns a patient about an illness before it spreads. And Jesus, in his mercy, is warning us, because he wants none of us to be lost. My friend, this world is asleep. We scroll, we work, we chase success, we fight over politics, we argue over opinions. But how many of us are truly ready for the day the skies split open? For the day when silence falls and darkness covers the earth? I can tell you this, when it comes, it will be too late to prepare. Preparation must happen now, in the quiet choices of our daily lives. It's not about fear, it's about surrender. It's about living each moment as if it could be the last, because one day, it will be. I returned with one burning mission, to tell you, and as many as will listen, that Jesus is real, he is alive, and he is coming again, not as the world imagines, but as King and Judge. And he is asking us, are you ready? If you hear these words today, it's not an accident. It's an invitation to turn your heart back to him, to let go of distractions, to forgive, to repent, to choose light over darkness before the darkness falls. But now I want to leave you with this final question. If the 3 days of darkness began tomorrow, would you be ready to face it? Or would you be caught unprepared? Write your answer in the comments. Don't be afraid. Your honesty may stir another heart to prepare. And if this message touched you, I ask you to subscribe to this channel and share this video. Not for me, but so more souls can be awakened before it's too late. Let's spread light while there is still time.